All right, starting this Monday edition of the SportsMax Zone with track and field, and the curtain came down on the ISSA Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Athletics Championships on Saturday at the National Stadium in Kingston, with Kingston College retaining the boys' title and Hydel taking their first ever girls' title. Let's have a look at the final standings. Beginning with the boys, Kingston College, 366 points. That's 67 ahead of Jamaica College, 299. Calabar back over 200, third, 207 points. St. Jago, 118.5 in fourth. And St. Elizabeth Technical in fifth and 116. Edwin Allen, Wolmer's, Excelsior, Magotty. Really good performance from Magotty, and Cornwall College rounding out the top 10. And on the girls' side, Hydel crowned champions for the first time ever, just 2 points ahead of Edwin Allen, 279 to 277. Homewood Technical third on 202 points, St. Jago fourth on 178, and St. Catherine, a fabulous performance from St. Catherine as well to finish in the top 5 with 116 points. The former school of the St. Lucian, Julian Alfred. Wilma's, the top corporate area school, with 111 points. Immaculate 7th, 94. Excelsior 8th, 74.5. St. Elizabeth Technical back in the top 10 on the girls' side, 45.5. And Mount Alvernia finishing in 10th position with 39 points. Now, a number of issues have risen out of champs. Probably the biggest of them is the title sponsors, Grace Kennedy, potentially pulling their funding because of disciplinary concerns. Now, according to Grace Kennedy CEO Don Webby, he'd prefer not to be associated with champs than have Indiscipline. All right, let's talk about some of those issues with the president of the Intersecondary School Sports Association, ISSA, the organizers of champs. His name is Keith Wellington. Mr. Wellington, first of all, how are you doing? I know it must have been a long week and you were probably back at school today doing the thing that you're paid to do, which is to be a principal. How are you feeling?
Tired.
Good way to put it all. In that case, we'll try not to keep you too long. So let's get right into the issues then. The interview done by Don Webby, CEO of your title sponsors, Grace Kennedy, has pretty much gone viral since Saturday, where he said if Indiscipline is allowed to continue, then Grace Kennedy might have to consider pulling their sponsorship. And that has gotten a lot of individuals going. Before I even get into those specific comments, though, I want to get an idea of how you feel as the ISSA president about some of the incidents that took place throughout the championship that would have led to this conversation in the first place.
So in terms of indiscipline, acts of indiscipline, I think there may have been about 3 incidents that I can readily identify. I understand there may have been another one after everything was completed on Saturday night. But I saw 3 incidents. One that the CEO made reference to in terms of the youngster and the gesture he made at the end of the race he was involved in, and the other one involving the 2 students from Calabar and KC. And there's another one that I saw, I haven't heard much being said about it, but one that was of a similar nature to the gesture. Those are the 3 incidents that I can recognize as you know, not in keeping with what we expect of our student athletes. But, you know, Mr. Webby and I had a discussion, we had a discussion after the meet on Saturday, and both of us agreed that we have a societal issue and that we did well a chance to restrict the acts of indiscipline to what we were able to restrict it to, bearing in mind what we face every day in our schools and every day in our society. But that doesn't make it acceptable, and we don't want to see one single act of indiscipline at champs. So I understand the position taken by Mr. Webby. This is not a new position that he has taken. This is a position on which our relationship has been built in terms of ensuring that we do what is expected of us to protect both our images and our beliefs. I think both organizations believe strongly in discipline and the image of champs as a world with known activity, and therefore we are not going, neither of us are willing to tolerate any acts of indiscipline that will bring the competition into disrepute, and certainly bring our good names into disrepute.
Are there rules in place to prevent acts of the nature of what we saw over the 5 days at Champs? And you referenced at least 3 cases that we can point to.
I don't think rules will prevent any act of indiscipline, Ricardo. Rules don't actually prevent them. What does? Well, first of all, what rules do is to ensure that when these acts do happen, that we ensure that it is made clear that they are unacceptable and that the appropriate action that is taken discourages it from taking place, but it will not prevent particular...
and you are right, but are the rules there to discourage them from performing these acts?
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I think that there are clearly established rules that discourages it and presents some sort of punishment that will act as a deterrent and cost the perpetrators of these acts. I think whether or not they are being applied fully may be another point of discussion, and we may also, as an organization, have to look at other types of rules or other rules that speak more specifically to some of these acts.
Okay, so can you give us an idea of how these rules as they are now are laid out, and can you give us an explanation as to why they are not being enforced, or at least why it seems as if they are not being enforced?
All right, so in terms of the rules, World Athletics, whose rules we use or we adapt to govern our championship, speaks to acts of unsportsmanlike behavior or intimidation or anything like that will bring the competition into disrepute. There is an assigned, or there are assigned referees. So for us, we have track and field or track referees as well as field referees. These persons are able to identify when these acts take place and act on it, or reports may be made to these persons who may then investigate and act on these issues. They have the power to expel an individual from the meet or to punish them, warn them during the course of the meet.
Yeah.
So those are established rules that are general. But I think where we need to, as an organization now, is to actually maybe put in competition rules where we take, well, maybe not just take it out of the hands of the referees, but allow us as organizers to take action, because where we are now, we depend on the technical staff and the various layers that are ingrained in the competition to act. So we, as principals, we do not interfere during the meet. We can always act subsequent to the meet or alongside the meet, but we try not to interfere in the competition and rather allow the rules of the competition to take effect.
Yeah, I'm hoping you can help me out here, Mr. President, because when we left this show on Friday, we reported, and this was one of the more high-profile cases, we reported that Nicarda Clark, the Kingston College athlete, had been disqualified from the 100 meters class 2 boys. Of course, he was the athlete who was impeded, and that he would have lost the points. Kingston College would have lost the 4 points that he garnered in that event. Hours after we had left here, news broke that the disqualification was overturned and he would be allowed to continue in the competition. Is there any light that you can shed on what happened in that specific instance? What would have led to the disqualification in the first place, and then the overturning of that decision?
All right, so just as I outlined earlier, the incident took place. The track referee identified that in his opinion, there was a breach of our rules, and therefore he indicated that the athlete in question should be red carded, because they do have red cards in track and field, should be red carded and therefore be expelled from the rest of the competitions and the points deducted from him. Subsequent to the decision of the referees, that would have been communicated to the school and to the coach, the athlete, and in general, well, the principal certainly. I think after that, you would have been informed, the media would have been informed of the decision taken, and subsequently to that, the school filed an appeal, which was heard by the jury, who overturned the decision of the referee.
Right. Keith, as a non-Jamaican, just looking on at champs here, first of all, I want to say it's such a pity that, today, Monday after champs, we have to spend our time discussing this as opposed to celebrating the big event that champs is, and of course the youngsters that continue to do well. Now, my question to you is, of course, a lot of non-Jamaicans, they participate in champs as well. Do you think if these events continue, it can probably deter Caribbean participation, and it's something that we would never want?
No, certainly I don't think that it is something that we want, and I'm sure that other persons looking on would not want to be involved in anything that portrays the type of, portrays levels of indiscipline. But I don't want to underplay the significance of what took place. But as I said, I've tried to think about the acts that we would refer to as acts of indiscipline, and I've been able to identify 3. From where we are coming from and where we are as a society generally, I think that those acts, we want 0 of them, but I think that there were many acts of sportsmanlike behavior, not necessarily behavior that you automatically expect, but where students, including students from the 2 schools involved in this, showed real outstanding acts of sportsmanlike behavior. And I think that the media as well owes it to the nation to highlight, and to these youngsters who are involved, to highlight some of these positives to show that this looks better than that. So I think that we are not at the point where we are going to be overly concerned that where champs is rife in indiscipline, because I don't think that that is the case. Right. And I think that I think all level-headed persons, the organizers, the schools understand that we want 0 acts of indiscipline, but we also have to accept that we are not talking solely about athletes now. We are talking about students, and a part of our responsibility, why we organize these events in the first place, is to ensure that there is the opportunity to properly socialize these students. And therefore, if there was no reason to help to teach these students and to get them to understand the value of discipline, maybe champs wouldn't be as important as we think it is.
Exactly, and I know you would have had a discussion with Don Webby after, this interview and whatnot, and maybe he would have been upset in the heat of the moment. But is it that Grace Kennedy is there to stay where champs is concerned?
I think they are. I think we have had a very good relationship, and we are very clear as to what our objectives are. Grace, as I said at the outset to Ricardo, we have been in this relationship for over 10 years, and we have always had this discussion about the importance of ensuring that this is about clean, healthy, family fun, right? And therefore, it is not surprising to us that Don would have taken the position that he has taken, because it is not something new. He has always made it clear that Grace wants to be involved in something that is healthy, that can be an example to the rest of the nation. And therefore, if he thinks that something untoward has taken place, and he is concerned that if it continues, he would not want to be associated. It is nothing new, and I support him 100%. And he knows that we are not going to be tolerating it either. And so I don't feel threatened to the point where we are concerned that Grace Kennedy is thinking about pulling out. I think that Don has made it very clear as to what level, what standards Grace Kennedy expects, and we are totally aligned with those standards. And therefore, it is now up to us to ensure that we not just walk the walk, but not just start the talk, but also walk the walk. So I'm in support of what he would have said in terms of his options.
Yeah, well said, Mr. President. There are a couple of other issues that I want to run through quickly. One of them is the issue of scheduling. Now, because we would have had discussions publicly before this schedule was put together the first time last year, that this is the way to go. Spread the finals across the 5 days and ensure that you give the athletes enough time to recover and all of that wonderful stuff. And we saw quality performances, and I think some of it because the scheduling was better for the athletes. But, Mr. President, the Friday schedule seems to be a problem, where you are ending the penultimate day of champs with semi-finals and not finals. And you're having, for the second consecutive year, individuals walking out of the stadium with many events still to go, which is not what you want. Is your team going to be having a closer look at that Friday schedule to see how it can be adjusted so that it also benefits the spectators?
Certainly, Ricardo. First of all, let me thank all those persons who turned out for champs on all the different days. I think that we did well in terms of getting persons out, and I think we owe it to the patrons to ensure that whichever day they choose to come to champ, that they will feel as if they are getting value for money. Friday evening is important because it's the evening when everybody ends, when most persons end their work week, and they would want to come out and be entertained. And so we will continue to look at what our best options are as it relates to Friday evening. But we have to be reminded as well that it's not just about setting something for Friday evening. Whatever we do for Friday is likely to have an impact on the rest of the week. But we want to take it one day at a time and ensure that we get all the days to be really good days of championship. I'm not sure exactly what we can do with the Friday yet, but I think that we will continue to look. We have already made a commitment. Normally we start our planning for champs in earnest in October, right? So we would do our reviews and so on from as early as April, right after pen release, going towards October. But this year I think we're going to spend a little bit more time and get some things out of the way so that when we get to October we'll be thinking about execution rather than maybe some of the changes that we want to do. But yes, we will continue to review what takes place each day.
All right, Mr. President, we're out of time. Thank you very much. I want to suggest that I have a few suggestions on how that Friday can be better, can work for the athletes and can work for the spectators as well. But I'm sure we'll be talking.
No, I love to take those suggestions. You know that you can always speak with us. And so I would love to take the suggestion. And that is why we are starting this early, which will give us enough time going into October to say this is what we are actually going to do, and not start in October looking at the options and then when we get to December we say it's too late. So we look forward to those suggestions from you or anyone else who think that they have an idea that is worth thinking about.
All right, Keith Wellington, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on the SportsMax Zone. Congratulations on another great event, and we look forward to more outstanding events coming from ISSA. Take care, Keith Wellington, President of ISSA. Out of time. Take a break on the SportsMax Zone. When we come back, we'll be chatting to Brian Lewis, former president of CANAC. He was at Champs, the Trinidad and Tobago man. We'll hear about how much he enjoyed it.